Hey everybody, what's up? I'm so excited to talk to you guys today about business in Latin America, business culture, all of these things. We're going to cover a few things that you should know about doing business in Latin America, what things might be a little bit different. And I'm here with my longtime friend, Isabel, and she lives in Puerto Rico. And she has a company called Spanish Immersion Rincón, which is also a city name, and Rincón also means corner. So, Spanish Immersion Corner. And Anna and I met in the e-commerce industry, of course. And, since she specializes in helping people learn Spanish and do business and be introduced to this culture, I thought she was perfect to come and just teach us a little bit. So we're going to have a little Spanish class, a little Spanish culture class from Anna today. And I'm so excited to get into it and hopefully learn a little something too. So welcome, Anna. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you?
Muchas gracias, Amy. Thank you very much for having me here today. I am super excited for this opportunity. I'm so excited about the Mexico trip and for all of you guys who are going to get to go on this trip, because seriously, not only you get to do business in Mexico, but the experience of learning a new language, even if it's business, there's no value, there's no money value that you can put on something like that. Yes, it's my first time being interviewed, so I just got very nervous, but okay. I teach classes all the time in person, but I don't know, sometimes the jitters. But anyway, so I like to introduce myself. My name is Isabel. Some of you know me already from the Amazing at Home. And yes, I do have a Spanish Immersion Rincón program. I have been teaching this program to expats and people who moved to Puerto Rico. Now this is it's my 8th year teaching this program. I have different programs that I put together, courses. And so I also dabble in the world of the e-commerce, which is why I thought this would be perfect, because I understand what it's like to learn the language and also what it's like to have to deal with doing business in another language. So I thought, Amy and I talked, and she said, this would be great for you to bring some tips to our people. So here I am. Let's get started. I'm excited.
I love it. Very cool. So, we're so excited to have you on the Mexico trip. And, we're like a family there, a familia. So
La familia.
it's so great. And, I know that we're all going to learn a lot. And hopefully if anyone wants to learn a little Spanish, you can definitely turn to Anna during the trip and learn a few fun things. So speaking of learning a few fun things, let's talk about business etiquette, some basic business etiquette tips. Whenever you go to a new country to do business and you make the mistake of assuming that the etiquette or the culture, the business culture is the same as your country, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a few surprises. So what are the things about business etiquette that people should be aware of in Latin America?
So as we were speaking, I just lost my entire document here somewhere. So, but I will go ahead and start with what I can tell you already. But if you give me 1 second to pull up the document, it disappeared from my screen.
No problem.
Okay, give me.
So the first thing is about developing rapport, right?
Absolutely. So just like in any other country that you visit, I don't know how many of you guys have been to China and the China trips with Amy, but any country you visit has their own culture, their own way of living, and you're not expected to be completely educated on the culture. But obviously, it's always good to have a little bit of preparation ahead of time on just the simple things of how do you do, even if it wasn't a different language, you have to build rapport when you're creating a relationship with a new, with a supplier, with a manufacturer. So you're dealing with a Latin culture, it's the same way. In a funny way, it's even more fun because Latin culture are about family and fun. So there is always going to be that fine line between what is friendly and what is professional. That's the biggest thing, is how do you start building the rapport? What are those questions that you want to ask, and when to know that you said enough And basically just, the good thing is that you can always just say, bueno, perfecto, muchas gracias. And that always goes a long way.
Perfect. Yeah. So, some of the tips that you had given earlier were, developing that rapport. Family is really, really important. And people really in Mexico, they want to sit down and have a cup of coffee. They want to get to know you. And even in China, when I'm doing, negotiation calls or teaching people how to, tour factories and things like that, we always start on the personal level. We don't, in America, we sit down, we get right to business. Okay, how can you help me?
Yeah.
This is what I'm here for. Let's go. Time is money. It's not like that in these other cultures. We need to take the time and say, how are you doing? How are you doing? Meet them on that personal level. It's a great, beautiful day today, right? Tell me a little bit more about your company and how you started. Is it a family business?
Yes.
Take a minute. Just take a minute. And before you get into, if you're at EvoLatam and you're walking up to a supplier booth and you see something there and you're like, oh, before you talk about the product and get into it, of course, there's nothing wrong with picking up the product and oh, okay, this is really great. This is tell me a little bit more about this. That's okay to start there, but then after that, once you kind of know, like, oh, okay, I think I would like to get to know this company a little bit more, then take the time and go, oh, okay, what do you do at this company? And, how long have you been doing this? And is this one of your, what are your best products? What are your exports? Just have a conversation, be interested,
Really?
be about more than just how much is this product and when can we do business together?
Yes,
Right?
absolutely. And also when you think about it, at least for those North American sellers, most of you have taken Spanish, even when it's maybe was in high school or college, and it's somewhere hidden in the back of your head. And you'll be surprised that when you're put in situations like this, a little bit of Spanish, will come out. You will feel like you want to try it. And using those little gestures and like Amy is saying, just like go a little bit into more than just the product and the factory, but to the personal level. Latin people are very familiar. We love family. We love sense of humor, and really that camaraderie that you create when you're working together. And it's funny because I moved back to Puerto Rico after living in the States for 17 years. I was used to doing business in the States, and I came back to Puerto Rico and I forgot that we don't do business like that in Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, people just want to hang out for a while before they get into business. And in fact, if you get into business too quickly, they almost think, why? Why do you want to get into, why don't you want to know about me first? So that is the thing that is so important, that is the show that warmth. And it's really, it takes you really far when they see that you're there to build a relationship rather than just like ABC. Come on, let me see the MOQ and let's go. So yeah, absolutely. It's and I'm just the same way with the language thing. So you just learn the few basic greetings, which we're going to talk about at the end. But just the meal times, like Amy said, a coffee. You're having a coffee with someone, and don't talk about business, because the business. What happens? The business will come from the seller, from the manufacturer. Once they see this is a person I want to do business with, they're going to be handing you business because they're going to want to partner with you. That's the kind of relationship you build when you build businesses in Latin America. It becomes literally an extended family.
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
So that's really awesome in terms of these tips, to just be aware. And I think the first thing with business etiquette for us to keep in mind, is just to, take our time. Don't rush into anything. Just take your time. Nothing wrong. Don't get nervous about it either. I mean, they are at a trade show to do business,
Yeah.
but just remember to take your time. remember to, you know, try a few of those Spanish words. We do have translators walking the floor, so you don't have to worry. You know, they're in bright t-shirts and you can just grab a translator. But I remember when you said a little Spanish goes a long way, I remember just saying, you know, I would make the little joke of, well, your English is probably better than my Spanish. You know, we just kind of joke together, and just giving them that confidence too, that you appreciate that they're even trying, because they get nervous too. Some of them speak really great English, but it's Spanish is their language, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We're there to do business with them. So just being patient and understanding, and it's okay to need a little help and say, hey, translator, can you come on over? And you know, you work together, but just do your best, and remember to take your time and get to know people, because that is one of the most beautiful thing about sourcing. You know, your supplier is truly your partner. They really are your partner. You cannot be successful without them, and they can't be successful without you, right? You know, they can get other clients and you can get other suppliers, but if you're working together, you got to work together. So that's a great way to look at it. You don't want to be partners with somebody you don't know. So you want to take the time, get to know them, and small talk is great, but just don't rush too much. So,
exactly.
So speaking of that, let's get into traditions, and kind of, you know, you said family is really important. And you mentioned that a lot of their businesses are sometimes family owned. Talk a little bit more about that. Is business a little bit different when they're opening businesses? Do they see family even in business as being important?
Absolutely. It's so you see most of the Latin American countries start from the family. So it's you see a lot more the American corporations hire out, where in the Latin corporations, Latin companies, we hire our family members first, and it's a traditional thing that has been in the family for hundreds of years, generation after generation. And so the cousin might be the one making the product that you're touching, and the aunt is the one answering the phones, so because of that, family. Well, first of all, family in Latin American countries is so precious. But also, family-owned businesses are very protective of their little product that they have created, and they think that they have now made into a money income producing for the entire family. So you want to ask questions. You know, once you see, you might come one of the booths, or when you visit a factory, there might be a portrait in the back with the whole entire family, or like when they first made the first little clay pot or something. And this is a great opportunity to ask. You might see this little lady with wrinkles and little gray hair in the picture, and that's a great way to say, what, oh my goodness, what is this? They will tell you the whole family story. And literally, that is another opportunity for you to build that bond again. Family history, traditions, funny stories that you're going to use later when you to relate back to them, and also that will color your product. Because if you if once you understand some of this history behind this art, you might want some of that in your own products, because it kind of you can add that when you're creating that story brand, right? You can say, made by the hands of the Doña Manuela, or whatever you want to say, with love to you. So there are ways that you can incorporate this history even to carry on into your own story and your own products. I think it's a magnificent way of bringing a lot more value to your products as well.
Yeah, you know, on our last Mexico trip, we toured a ceramics factory, and it was just fascinating. But they started their presentation to us talking about their family and their history, and it was really crazy to see that even the abuela, you know, the grandmother, she's there in the company and has had such a big part in starting it and growing it. And then they've got, you know, all the sons that have worked, and their father who's so dedicated. And of course they had other employees, and in this particular factory they focused on special needs. They really wanted to employ people and give them dignity. And these people were incredibly dedicated. And so it was just beautiful to see a family business, but also really they had such a mission and such a heart and soul. And even in some of these factories that we're going to be visiting in Monterrey together, I have visited them ahead of time to make sure that they're a good fit for our groups, and just fascinating. One of them is in plastics, and the whole family, you know, has been involved, and they've been doing this for generations. And it is just beautiful to see. And they're working on a huge expansion, and it's just beautiful to see that that difference. And you do see that in China too. You do see some family owned businesses and factories, but it's less and less now comparatively to Latin America, where you see that a lot more. So it's a beautiful thing. It really adds to the warmth of the culture. And I love what you mentioned, Anna, about fitting that into your story. In fact, we have folks from the last Mexico trip who are now sourcing from Mexico. And that is what we've done with their photos, like made in Mexico. We have, you know, beautiful picture of the people at the factory. And you know, that it really does resonate with the customer when they see that and they go, oh, this is not just like a sweatshop product, right? And like people are behind this and they care, and it's beautiful. So I love that. The next thing that you mentioned is about timing. I've noticed this a little bit working with Mexico and Latin America. You know, in China, things sometimes move a little bit faster after you get to know each other and everything, and you're moving forward. Sometimes things move a little faster. But I've noticed in dealing with Latin America that sometimes things are slower. So can you talk a little bit about time?
You know, it's funny because although I'm in Puerto Rico, it's very much all Latin America. In Puerto Rico, when we make plans, so I live in a town that has a lot of North Americans, and whenever we plan an activity, we always say, is this Puerto Rico time or regular time? We have to always say like, no, it's American Standard Time, because they think, oh, it's Puerto Rico time, we just show up whenever, you know. So like, no, American time, let's show up on time, let's start the class right on time. But there is a thing about ease and this calm. And I honestly, I think sometimes it's because our lunch is so heavy. You know, we eat so much food at lunch, and people just need siesta time. So the siesta thing is not a joke. It's we don't take siestas in Puerto Rico because we're more like American style. But we should take siestas because we still slow down for like 3 hours after our heavy lunches. And you know, when you get done eating rice and beans and all these things you have for lunch in Mexico, you're going to need a siesta. So what happens is that translates to the way of doing business, where also the offices take longer to process things. So like if you were to get, I'm not sure if you need to get trademarks in Mexico. I don't know. I know that we do that with China, but any kind of documents that are beyond just getting your product made might take a little longer. It's a good thing that you have something like the Mexico trip and Amy's agency behind it to help you guys find the people that will help you put all this together, because you might need, before you go frustrated, we have Amy. Amy will take care of it, because you know, it's like, God, Amy, I've been calling and these people take forever. That is normal. So what you do, you just kind of take a little moment and know that they're working on it. Just because you haven't heard from them and they're taking a little bit to answer, they're still working on it. It's just Mexico time. Let's just call it LATAM time, because it's a little longer.
You know, and I think that's important to note that it doesn't equal unprofessionalism. It doesn't equal that things aren't going to get done. In fact, quite the opposite. Like we were actually surprised. You know, one of my clients came with us on the Mexico trip, and she's now sourcing from there. And we've kind of been on this journey together of like her sourcing her product from this factory she found at EvoLatam, and like we're figuring out like how to import it, and a lot of stuff they're learning too, because you know, this is new for them too, to start exporting and working with e-commerce buyers. So, but they've been so kind and so professional the entire time. I've actually really enjoyed, I work with so many clients sourcing their products and telling them what they should do to get their factory to move forward and this kind of thing. And with these guys, it's been so beautiful to see. Like, she got her sample in 2 days because the shipping is so close. And they sent her like a 3D video of the product. So I was like, man, I don't get 3D 360 views of the product in CAD. Like, they were so professional. And they've met all of the timelines that that they've been honest about timelines, and they've met her timelines. And so it's been a beautiful thing, and it doesn't mean that that you working with suppliers in Latin America that they're not going to get things done.
Yeah.
It's just that the communication rhythm is a little bit different. So they definitely meet timelines. Of course, when you're dealing with government agencies, even those of us doing trademarks in the US, it's like, geez, when is this going to happen, right? That's why Amazon Accelerator exists, right? But those kind of things, I think it's important to realize that in the culture, the way that we move or the way that we communicate might be different in timing.
Right.
But remember that that doesn't equal they're not professional or they're not going to fulfill your product on time or anything like that. They do a great job with that. It just, remember, just like we said with etiquette, take your time, get to know them. It's going to go a long way. And yeah, it's still very reliable and very professional.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is that they are incredibly professional. And the same thing also, Puerto Rico, we hear, I think it's because North American style is so, most of the time, is so systematic, and everything has like this order for the business outside of the States. I mean, this is actually really good because most of our sellers are used to sourcing from China, which is already has its own issues. So then with Mexico would be a lot easier, honestly, because at least the language barrier is not as big. As you said, Amy, the distance is not as far. So they are incredibly professional business people. Just because there is a little delay in perhaps the communication, it's not like even a delay. It's just a different pace, and you might get and you will get to enjoy that because you can breathe a little bit. You can join the process more. It doesn't feel so like maybe with China, because really truly you're dealing with a whole different continent. This is just Mexico is a lot easier. I honestly think doing business in Latin America is a lot easier.
Yeah, I noticed like the warmth of the people is just, it's very hard to replicate in any country. I don't want to compare it to China. I mean, I love my Chinese manufacturers too. They're wonderful people. And if you tour a factory in China, you won't even talk business until the afternoon, until after you had tea and had lunch together. And so it's a beautiful thing. They also put a lot into relationships, but there's a warmth in Latin America that is so beautiful. And they really care about the relationships. Even we have, a local sales team there and our events company that helps us put on our events. And they're so professional. Like, honestly, I wish I could bring them to the US for events because they're so professional and they're so good at what they do. But they do it with a warmth and a care where you really feel like they're your family. I mean, I just really feel deeply connected to our whole team. Nice. And we've only had our first event so far. This is only our second, and just it's so wonderful to break bread with them and spend time with them. And so yeah, it's something that I can't replicate and I can't even properly explain. But it's really beautiful. And
that's beautiful.
Every time I think about going back, I get that warm feeling of seeing old friends or family, and it's just really, it's just beautiful, you guys. You're gonna love it. So yeah, I think that if we could capture one thing about the culture in the business, it's that warmth that's really great.
Yeah. Lovely relationships. Absolutely. That's the lasting relationships. This is not only partnerships, but then you're so close, you might find like, oh, Mexico, maybe I can move to Mexico or travel to Mexico on vacation more often
Yeah,
because it's so
and
close.
they're so wonderful about that too. I'll never forget one of the suppliers that was at our last EvoLatam. He and his wife, they made different soaps, like handcrafted soaps, and they made the coolest like shapes and things out of them. I mean, you could really, I was like, man, I could do different breeds of cats. Like I could do all kinds of cool things with this. But, and then their MOQs were very low because they were like, yeah, it's fine. We can make a cool design for you and we can test the market. And it was really nice working with them. And then the other thing that, that they did is they actually made a low sodium version of salt from a cactus. And this was something that, it was unique to their region of Mexico where they live. And it's been in their family for generations. And it's a type of seasoning where if you use this on your food, it was very salty. They gave me a sample.
Interesting.
But it doesn't affect like your blood pressure and stuff like that, like normal sodium based products do. And so I was like, oh, this is really interesting. But along with that, I said, could I come and see it sometime? And they were like, yes, anytime. We would love to show you the whole process and everything. And they're just so warm and welcoming. And that's something that we also look for in China. When we go to China in person, we ask, like, can I come see your factory?
Yeah.
And the answer to that question is something people should pay attention to. Because you're showing that you're interested in being more than just can I call you and you make some things for me, right? You're showing that you actually want a relationship and a partnership. But in their answer, they're also showing that they want the same. And so that's something that is really cool. I mean, imagine being able to see right now, for me to see I haven't seen my suppliers in China in years, right now for me to even see them, it's a significant, I got to get a visa. I got to, it's how many hours of flying and days of flying, and then time zone changes. Monterrey for me is an hour flight. Like it's a 6-hour drive from, it's 6-hour drive from San Antonio, and it's an hour-long flight, and I could be there, and they're on the same time zone, and it's just, it's really game changing. So I love it. I love it. It's wonderful. So I want to talk a little bit to kind of wrap us up before we get into some Spanish phrases. I want to talk a little bit about something you mentioned here in your talking points. You said it's a completely different value proposition when working with Latin America. It's not simply cheap labor. It actually, the labor cost in Mexico is actually cheaper than China, right? Like it's a lower cost than China, which is very favorable for us, right? But you made a very good point, because it's just because it's a lower labor cost doesn't mean they're running sweatshops. It's just a lower cost of living as well. Like there's a lot of things that go along with that lower labor cost. So can you talk a little bit about that? You talked about how it's not just cheap labor. Talk about the quality of the work.
So that's a very good point, because what happens is that we tend to think it's a different country, sourcing from there, so obviously it's got to be cheaper. It's cheap. No, it's got to be cheaper than manufacturing in North America. We're always used to doing businesses with, like, business with China or India or any of those other countries, and so we, just like you said, Amy, like we picture people in this factory, 2,000 people working in a sweatshop, and it's so different in Mexico. For one of the points is it's a lower cost of living, so it allows you to have a lower cost of production. Factories are owned by their family. A lot of the ingredients are source in their own backyard, because they have a lot of the not ingredients, but the materials are usually things that they have created, they have in their family for generations, like the clay and the things they use for production. So we confuse that it's cheaper in terms of the sourcing cost, but it's not cheaper in terms of the product quality. It's definitely also in the type of person that we're dealing with. The employees at these factories are generally higher in education.
Yeah.
They have similar cultural values as we have, because when you think about it, they're not that far away from us.
Yeah.
So it's not like a whole other world away. They're literally next to our neighbors. So that alone, we can relate to them. If they speak a different language, but we can relate more to how it work for us and how we collaborate. Just like you said, Amy, it's the same time zone. So if you really truly wanted to go and see these people, your factory in action, you can fly there, make a weekend out of it, which I'm sure is a tax write-off. And you can fly down there, see them working on your product, build the rapport even more, because they see you're there while they're putting the first box together for your first 100 items. And the language is Spanish, but it's more prevalent in the United States than any other language of any of these countries. You know, you will see Spanish is the second most spoken language in the world, versus, you know, if you were to source from India or source from China, you don't hear these languages all over the United States, but you hear Spanish everywhere. Especially, I'm gonna have to say, with Puerto Rico now having Bad Bunny spreading the love everywhere, everyone knows about Puerto Rico and Spanish everywhere. So Spanish is a big language, and it's easier for you to even, which we will get into eventually about this, but even the language part, we have this thing called cognates, which is words that in English mean the same thing as in Spanish, but just adding a syllable with letter at the end. So you can kind of make like a buffet. You can speak Spanish, and you don't even have to know Spanish. So let me just say that. So it's an easier transition to doing business with Latin America than it is with other countries, basically. Yes.
Yeah, and they're so joyful even about helping you learn Spanish, and a lot of them, they want to learn English too, more English. So it's a benefit on both sides.
Absolutely.
And so I've discovered that anytime I want to brush up on my Spanish when I'm in Mexico, they're happy to help me. I'll say, oh, how do you ¿cómo se dice en español? How do you say this in Spanish?
Yes.
And they'll help me with that. Or like when we're at a restaurant together and we're ordering something, the English translations on the menus are not always like normal. So, they try to think of the word in Spanish and kind of help describe it in English. And it's like a very collaborative, fun effort, and both sides really want to try and work together, and I found that to be very enjoyable. My partner Tim Jordan, he does not speak Spanish. He says I'm the gringo, right? But it's so fun to see how much Spanish he's learned so far, and by the time we get done with any of our trips, he's speaking lots of Spanish words. And
oh wow.
And everybody, is just kind of like, we all kind of joke around about it, but he really, you can see the joy in his face that he's learning new words, and everybody loves seeing all of us make that effort and learn. So I think it's wonderful. So speaking of learning, let's wrap it up today with a few wonderful phrases. And before we get into that, I want to remind everybody we've got less than a month, a little over a month left. We've got a few seats left on the Mexico trip. So you guys can go to themexicotrip.com and get signed up for the trip. We'd love to have you there. And if you'd like to attend the trade show, if you're coming on the Mexico trip, the trade show and Expo and e-com conference is included. But if you're just coming into town for the Expo, that's on the 15th and 16th of February, and you can learn more at EvoLatam.com. So would love to see you guys there on the trip, and reach out anytime if you guys want to get on a call with us about it. you can go to themexicotrip.com/more-info. And we have a little form there you can fill out, and we'll reach out to you and sit down with you on a call if you have any questions about the trip. So, and then also we have a webinar replay that kind of, it's posted on the site that walks you through all the different things you can source there, more information. And that's at themexicotrip.com/webinar. So would love to see you guys there, and let's wrap it up with a few things that we can say in Spanish, Anna. So what are like our top 5 words we should learn?
Well, I will say that the first thing you should know is how to say good morning, right? So, Amy, how did you say good morning?
Buenos días.
Buenos días. Exactly. And the key word is that it's buenos, not buenas, because buenos, because dia is a masculine word. We will, this is things that I teach in my class. But yeah, we say buenos días. And how do we say good afternoon?
Buenas tardes.
Muy bien. How about good evening and good night?
Well, then we've got good evening, which is buenas noches. Noches is night. Buenas, good evening. And then we've got, we can say the same thing. Buenas noches for saying good night.
Exactly.
Getting off the elevator at the end of the night and going back to our hotel room. Although on our last trip, we couldn't get people out of the hangout areas. They decided they were family from the moment they got there. And we were like, guys, we have a full schedule tomorrow. Are you going to go to bed? No, let's go to the taco stand. It's like,
oh my God, I can't wait. Oh my God, so much fun.
It's 2 a.m. guys. Like, you should go to bed. Like, we have a day tomorrow. Like, oh no, we're going to the taco stand. Okay.
Oh,
right.
I love
Adios.
it. Adios, exactly. So buenas noches is the same as when you walk into a place and you're saying good evening, like as a greeting, we say buenas noches. When you're saying good night at the end of the night, we also say buenas noches. So that's an easy one because it's the same for both. And for us in Puerto Rico, we're Spanish speakers, we get so confused because we walk into a place and we say good night because we don't know that there is a difference between good night and good evening. So it's easier for you guys to just say buenas noches in Espanol for both of them. And how do you say I'm from the place where you're from? How do you say I'm from Texas?
Well, I think that we should first say what our name is, right? Because you might have somebody say, ¿cómo se llama? Which is, what is your name? And so if you hear them say that, then you can say, me llamo, and then you could say your name, which Amy, right? Or Ana?
Sí, me llamo Amy, muy bien. Yo me llamo Ana. ¿Y de dónde eres? Where are you from?
Sí, and de donde eres means where are you from, right? So I can say soy, I am, soy is I am, de, of, I am of, right? So I can say soy de Texas, Texas.
Muy bien, exacto. Yes. And how do you say nice to meet you or pleased to meet you?
This is one of my favorite things to say is mucho gusto. I love to just, say me llamo Amy, and then they say their name. And, a lot of times it's very kind of casual. We say como está, which is, how are you? And then, we can say something like bien, which is I'm good, bien. And you can say y tú, which means and you. And then they can say, then they say good, whatever's like the small talk. And then you can say, I love to shake the hand and say mucho gusto.
Oh, qué linda. Yes, that's perfect. Exactly. Mucho gusto is pleased to meet you. Exactly. And then another one that you can say is delighted to meet you, which is encantado, encantada, which is like enchanted. Basically, encantado and encantada means enchanted, but it's like enchanting to meet you kind of thing. So a man will say encantado, a woman will say encantada. So you can say mucho gusto, encantada.
So another word that I hear all the time at the airport, at hotels, is adelante.
Adelante, which means like if you're trying to go, like if someone is in the elevator, then telling you go ahead, adelante means go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can go. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Which is why when you step up to the airline counter, adelante.
Adelante.
Okay.
After you. Yes, after you or step ahead. Both of those are adelante. Yes.
Okay, because I heard that all the time, and that wasn't a word I was familiar with. And so I was very curious about that because I hear it all the time in Mexico. Adelante, all the time.
Adelante, yes. And what else? What else? That's awesome. What other words have you heard that you kind of wonder what they mean?
I don't know if I can think of any right now, but just basically the most common words that we hear are buenos dias, and then also, you know, buenas noches, buena, right?
Buenas,
Bueno,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
And then I like to say hasta mañana, which means see you tomorrow, or
Yes.
hasta luego, which means see you later. You know, those are great words, but just ¿Cómo estás? People always say that, you know, how are you? And then you could say bien, y tú, right? And then the minute you do that, then I just got back from Mexico. I was there for Christmas vacation, and you know, all the drivers, everything, the staff, and you know, they come on, oh, hola, buenos dias, ¿cómo estás?
Love it.
And then the minute you say bien, y tú, they're like, oh, hablas español? They immediately they think you understand Spanish and they get excited about that. So and that is something they'll say a lot is, oh, do you understand Spanish or do you speak Espanol, right? And if you're not confident in that, then what should you say? If you say I just speak a little, how can you say I just speak a little Spanish?
So you can say hablo un poquito. If you only speak a little, you just say hablo, which is I speak. Little, un poquito. Un poquito.
Un
So
poquito.
That's poquito is a little of anything. Like if even if someone is offering you more at the table, like they're more margaritas on your glass, you say just a little bit. Solo un poquito. Un poquito is a little bit. Un poquito.
I like
and
it.
Then so you can also say if you are trying to learn, and you can say hable más despacio, por favor.
Which means speak more slowly, por favor, please.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Hable más despacio, por favor.
Por favor. And then they'll slow down. Then, or repita. Repita, por favor. Repeat. Repita. You can say repita, por favor. And then they'll repeat and you can listen to it again.
Yes, yeah. And a lot of times, you know, they'll speak to you in English if they feel like, you know, but it's not an insult. It's like, you know, they want to help. It's always out of a helpful
100%.
place.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you really want to learn, you can always, oh, tell me how to say that in Spanish. I want to learn, you know.
Yeah.
So, well, amazing. And then of course, I think we've talked about see you later, hasta luego, see you tomorrow, hasta mañana. But and then the final thing is adios, right?
Adios. Yeah. And what about welcome? Welcome.
Oh, bienvenida or
bienvenida or bienvenido. Yes.
So is it the rules of bienvenida or bienvenido? The way that I understand it is if there is even one female in a group of people, right, then you will use the feminine, right? You'll say bienvenida. Is that how it works?
The other way around. If there is one group of if there is even one male in a group of females, we will say bienvenidos. So only women, only the group of women is always going to have the A.
Okay. So men and women, but if there's even one man, then we say bienvenidos.
And if it's one woman and a group of men, also bienvenidos.
Okay.
Or you can always say bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Like you can just include everyone by saying bienvenidos y bienvenidas. So yes, exactly. But bienvenida is single. Bienvenidos is plural.
So plural meaning if you're speaking to a group of people, you say bienvenidos. If you're speaking to one person and it's a woman, you say bienvenida. If you're speaking to one person, it's a man, you say bienvenido.
Voila.
Welcome. And then Okay. Well, I
Yes.
think we've done some great Spanish lessons here. You guys are lucky. You really don't have to know any Spanish to come to Mexico. But hopefully we've had some fun with you today and you can practice some of these phrases. And just thank you so much, Anna, for sharing your knowledge with us. Can't wait to see you
Oh, my pleasure.
soon on the Mexico
Yes.
trip. It's going to be wonderful. And we'll get this out to the audience. And yeah.
I'm so excited.
Great.
It was just so much fun. And Amy, you're a muy buena estudiante. Very great student.
Gracias. Yes. I've been working very hard on getting my Spanish
I can
fully
tell.
fluent again, but it's,
Good.
it's difficult for me because of my other languages that
Yeah.
kind of muddy the water for me, but I'm hoping for full integration soon.
Yes. Muy buen trabajo. Great job. Great job.
Oh, thank
It
you.
was great meeting everyone, and I look forward to meeting everyone in Mexico, and I can't wait. I hope everyone comes and joins this amazing adventure, new opportunity that Amy and Tim have created for you guys. It's just really truly like the best experience ever.
Amazing. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you for
Bye.
coming. Thank you for listening. Adios. Hasta
Adios.
luego.
Bye. Adios.